Speaking of Brock, he's officially eligible for the contract extension starting today. So I don't know if his agent and the team have started talking to each other, throwing numbers around. But, I mean, the Niners' pattern throughout the years has been they give an initial offer around March, and then they give a second offer usually around August, give or take. And players have become increasingly patient and have gotten a lot of money by just playing chicken with the Niners and winning. Brock Purdy spoke today in the locker room. Were you there?
I didn't go today.
I didn't go either. I was flying back, but I watched, and he said he wants to wrap this up as quickly as possible. He doesn't want to hold out, which sounds like a really, really nice way of threatening to hold out. I don't know. Maybe I'm kidding, but it's like, yeah, he wants to wrap it up quickly. I'm sure he'd love the Niners to give him everything he wants right now. Do you think they will? And if they don't, do you think Brock Purdy would hold out?
It's all about Kyle Strongin, his agent, and like what kind of opening, what is he trying to get done? Is he trying to make a name for himself? He's not Drew Rosenhaus. He's not, he's not the biggest high profile agent, but maybe he wants to be. Does he want to drag?
He doesn't have any high profile clients other than Brock.
So is he trying to get this done, or is he trying to make a name for himself? Is he going to come to the Niners with some reasonable deal that's more along the lines of what like Mahomes makes, $45 million, which is still going to be a huge amount of money? Or is he going to come to the Niners with $65 million and not a penny less? And if he comes to the Niners with a $65 million, not a penny less, then he might be signing Brock's ticket out of town. And he might be guaranteeing of a long and ugly holdout. If he takes more of a team-friendly kind of approach, like, hey, I need to have, I'd ask Brock, what amount of money do you need? Do you need to be the guy who's making the most, or do you need a guy who's on the winning team? Because Mahomes makes 45, and yet he's the best. And nobody ever says, well, he's not the best because he's making 45. They say he's the best and he's making 45. So do you want to be you want to win championships? If so, you probably should get your price tag, south of $55 million. If you're not interested, if your agent's only interested in making headlines and getting ahead, then maybe he's going to ask for 65. And I just can't go there. I can't go there. And I don't think the 49ers can either. And I'm against waiting. I told you that a month ago. I said, I would not wait on this thing. I would get it done. But if his agent takes, after his backslide, and if his agent takes it's Dak Prescott money or bust, then if I'm the 49ers, I'm playing super hardball, and I'll say, you know what? I think we're going to hold off. I think we're going to hold off, and we're going to wait a year. If he's willing to play ball and get in what I would consider a more reasonable range, still very punitive for the Niners. I mean, you're talking about 40 to 50 million in there. If he could sit between 40 and 50 million, I'm interested. If he has to be north of 55, I'm putting it off.
Yeah, I think we have two different agendas here. Like the agent's agenda, as you said, he has something to prove. He's trying to get in the big leagues. And Brock's agenda. I mean, Brock wants to be seen. Brock wants to be liked. Kyle Strongin doesn't have fans. Brock Purdy has fans. And Brock Purdy saw what Niner fans, not what they did to Brandon Ayuk, but how they responded to Brandon Ayuk engaging in that ugly, dramatic, public dispute with the 49ers. I don't think Brock wants to be that guy. I think he said as much today. And knowing that he came off a pretty down season. I mean, 20 touchdowns, 12 picks, 6 wins, 9 losses. He's in no position to really demand anything. I don't think there's much of a trade market for him. So I think as long as the Niners don't insult him with their first offer, he'll probably sign it. And it'll probably get done pretty quick, and he'll be there for the first day of OTAs.
Where do you think it's going to sit? I mean, do you think that there is where do you think Parag starts? Like, does Parag try to super low ball? Or does he come in as his first offer, more of a reasonable, let's get it done in the north of $40 million range? Or does he try to? My
best guess here is it's going to be like structured in a way that allows Purdy and his agent to say, like, he's the second highest paid player in the league. 58 million, something ridiculous, and it's shocking. But then 4 days later, when the details come out, it's like, oh, but there's not as much guaranteed money as you think, and it's backloaded and it's team friendly. And because again, Brock isn't in a position of leverage. Ayuk was, and he flexed it. I don't. Purdy isn't. He plays an important position, but he's coming off his worst year. And again, I think he's saying, I don't want to squeeze every penny out of this franchise that I can. I want to be the leader. I want to be the good guy. I want to be here for day one of OTAs. So I still think as long as it's not insulting, he'll sign it.
You know, it's interesting. You said one thing that I don't know if it's true or not, and that is that I don't know. Like you're like, I don't know if he has much of a market. I don't know what the market really is going to look like, right? Because what do you got in the market? You got the retreads, and then you got a quarterback draft that I think looks awful. I mean, I watched Shador. I think Shador sucks. I mean, I thought Williams sucked last year, and I thought he was super overrated, but Shador looked awful against BYU in the bowl game. And to me, there's just no chance that he is a star. So maybe Cam Ward is a star. After that, I don't know about this quarterback class as far as the draft goes. So from that standpoint, and then I watched the Gruden thing where he was on some podcast. He's like, hell yeah, I'd pay Brock Purdy. You know, and I started to think, you know what? How many NFL coaches and executives are probably going to have that idea where, hey, man, this guy's a hardworking guy and this and that. He's not your big blue chip quarterback, that's for sure. But like the Raiders need one, like Giants need one. There's 4 or 5 teams that need a quarterback, and I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I seriously don't know how teams view Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I guess I was sort of assuming on that. I feel like he's so specific with his scheme fit, and maybe another team running the Niners scheme would look at him and say he would fit our what we're doing, but the Giants could just draft Cam Ward. Maybe not.
Nobody's running. The one thing I think I would agree with is nobody's running to pay him $60 million. Like if his agent comes out tomorrow and says it's $60 million or nothing, there's no trade market there for him. You know what I mean? There's no trade market if his agent's demanding $60 million. But if it's not a situation like that and he's willing to, play ball and be more reasonable, then I don't know. I mean, I think there might be actually some teams that would look at him and say he might be safer. Cam Ward was intriguing, but Cam Ward in a lot of ways is Brock Purdy. He's small, he's smallish arm, doesn't have the huge arm. So very similar in some ways, and Brock's more proven. He's actually done it in the pros. So, and that's the best. That's like the best of the best, the creme de la creme of this class. If you need a quarterback, I don't know. I mean, I guess Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson. And then the other question is if Brock's agent plays super hardball and says, hey, man, Dak Prescott makes $60 million. Brock Purdy needs to make $65 million, or there's no reason for you guys to even call us. Wow. I don't know then. I don't know. And Papa feels like Shador sucks. Shaking my head. Larry, you sound like a damn fool. Did I sound like a fool last year when I told you that Caleb Williams wasn't any good?
Hold on. Before we get to Shador, with Brock, I mean, if he wants to play hardball, the Niners can play hardball as well and say, man, like
next year,
you were in every position to show that you were worth what you want. And then you had in the second half of the season, you were throwing interception after interception in the second half of big games, like routinely. And then on top of that, you injured your throwing arm twice. 2 times against Seattle and then against Detroit. You didn't even finish the season. So
not only that, Grant, here's you're leaving off the biggest one. The whole reason to pay you, Brock, is contingent on you're a good decision maker.
Right.
And he has not been a good decision maker this year. I love the guy, but he has not made good decisions with the football. No.
No, it's almost like he's been extremely indecisive ever since the Super Bowl. I mean, he was playing well in the playoffs. He had that come from behind win against the Lions, but then in the Super Bowl, like third down, he had Ayuk over the middle and threw to Jennings. And that was the beginning of like, ooh, that's not the Brock Purdy we know. And ever since then, he's been sort of scrambling when he has open guys. And I'm not saying it's all his fault because it's not, but like to your point, the decision-making seems to have gotten worse, not better, which is strange. You would expect it to get better.
I mean, okay, let's talk about where this season mathematically ended on the interception was it the Rams game? Right?
Yeah.
Or was it the Dolphins game?
Rams.
So the Rams game, he's got a rusher coming at him. He's got 3 guys open. All of them are open underneath. All of the second level defenders were so deep that they were forcing him to throw underneath, and he refused to take the underneath, despite the fact he had 3 options. And with a blind look, he just threw it up in the middle of the field to JJ, and it was easily picked. And it was and what was the counter was, well, JJ, if he had possibly had taken a right step or a different step, maybe he could have knocked it down. That's totally missing the point. I mean, that would have been awesome if JJ could have broken up the interception, but it was a terrible decision. You had JJ, you had 3 guys open underneath. Was it 4th down? Was there 5 seconds left? No, it was 1st down, and there was plenty of time left. That was classic way over aggressive Brock Purdy play there. And it's that kind of decision making that made him awesome in the first couple of years and has made him regress this year. He's
and what's tough about that one too,
Shanahan wouldn't even agree. When I said to Shanahan, I said, he's super aggressive, Kyle. Is there any way you can get him to kind of coach him out of that super aggressiveness? He got into Kyle Shanahan, I'm going to defend my players mode in front of the media. And he's like, I don't think he's super aggressive. Really? There were 3 guys open underneath, and with a free rusher in his face, he blindly floated it out when he had there was no impetus to do so. It wasn't 4th down. It wasn't 5 seconds left. It was 1st down. I mean, classic over aggressiveness by Brock, and Shanahan kind of backed it. He was like, he's not over aggressive. All right.
What was so interesting about that 4th quarter collapse against the Rams, where it was 6-6 in the 4th quarter. Then the Rams kick a field goal. They're up 9-6, and the Niners start driving, and Kyle's calling a good drive, and he schemes up this post route for Ricky Pearsall, who's open, and Brock underthrows it, and it's broken up. That could have been like a go-ahead touchdown right there, but he misses the throw. 3 plays later, 2nd and 11 from the 34 of the Rams. That's when he's picked. And it's like the 34. Now, Jake Moody could miss any field goal, but you're theoretically in field goal range, down 3 midway through the 4th quarter. Like, you could have tied it right there. Worst case is you throw the pick in triple coverage, but you really could have tied the game, and then you end up losing by 6.
Well, and we're not even talking about the story of that game, which is in a game that was 3-0 Niners at the end of the 1st quarter, 3-3 at halftime, 6-3 Niners after 3. So the Niners were always either leading or within 1 score. 19 runs, 31 passes on a rainy night, on a wet night in December, when your quarterback doesn't handle a wet ball that well. And you should be running it 31 times and passing it, or you should be running it 31 times and passing it 19. And instead, Kyle Shanahan got pass happy. This is where I think Shanahan has lost his way a little bit, is that go look at almost every game that has gone south for Kyle Shanahan. All these people point to all these stats about 4th quarter collapses and they don't win in the 4th quarter, blah, blah, blah. It's almost all because they pass the ball too much and they don't run it enough.
I just think it's interesting that in the biggest game of the season, the one game that the Niners absolutely had to win, it wasn't Jake Moody who blew it. It wasn't Nick Sorensen who blew it. It was Kyle and Brock. 50-50. The 2 of them. And 3 weeks pass, and the Niners give up a bunch of points in games that don't matter, and they've got new scapegoats, and people don't quite remember. But that Rams game was the season, and those 2 guys saved their worst for that game, and I don't quite understand it.
Well, and it's weird. It's like McVay has watched Shanahan kick his ass, and so he takes notes, and he's like, you know what? I used to not want to run the ball because I'd hand it to Kyron Williams. He gets 3.5 yards a pop. Well, guess what he did in this last game? He handed it to him 29 times. He went for 3.7 a carry, but it doesn't matter. As long as you have that balance. At the end of that game, the Rams had 38 runs, 27 passes, which was absolutely a perfect run-pass breakdown for that kind of a night in that kind of a scenario. The Niners had 19 runs and 31 passes, and it made no sense. It made no sense. You're doing this with no Brandon Ayuk. I mean, it's like you went 31 passes and 19 runs and you didn't have Brandon Ayuk.